Today we are going over the McFarlane Special Edition Flash Issue 1. And I gotta say, this wasn't too bad, but I do have some gripes. So let's just dive into this book and kind of talk about it. The cover, it's not too bad. I mean, I think I finally figured out the word that I'm trying to use when I say that some of these covers, it looks overproduced. And what do you mean by, like, I say that, you're probably thinking, what do you mean by that? To me, I mean, it looks overly done. So, for example, see how everything has kind of like that dark kind of, I don't know. It has a nice inking feel to it. But when I look back at, let's say, for example, this is from 92 before digital coloring really started taking off. Look at how, I don't want to say simplistic, but it gets the message across and it's beautiful. And compared to this, where, it is digitally colored, but it looks like, there was an actual inking that was put into it. But there's the word. Too much going on. This shows all the characters that are in play in the story. The lines are clean. This just looks like there's too much going on. Like, it, to me personally, it just feels like an assault on all my senses, and it just kind of like, okay, where am I supposed to be looking? I see that we get the villains in there. That's a cool idea. I wish they would have maybe moved. What's the word I'm looking for? Shrunk the Flash down and moved this up a little bit. But still, with those gripes aside, it's not a bad piece of artwork for the cover. This came out back in 2022. Now, you're probably asking, why is this a McFarlane special? This came with the, what do you call it? The Page Punchers Atom. Hold on. This one, which we'll be eventually going over here pretty soon, but it came with this action figure. And I hope eventually that McFarlane kind of starts doing more of that. Like, you know how we get the trading cards with the original Multiverse ones, which is cool. But I love that we get comics, even if they're not superb. Let me just put it that way. So even though this comes with the Atom, it's a Flash comic, and it's based on the new Atom, Dr. What's his name, Ryan Choi and Barry Allen teaming up. So kind of a cool idea to introduce the new Atom. I'm not 100% sure on what happened, like Ray Palmer disappeared or something like that, and so Choi took up the mantle, something like that. But anyway, we open up on Iron Heights Penitentiary. This is Warden Wolf, and he goes, "Gentlemen, what I, as warden of this facility, call my pride and joy. This is the pipeline, and is where we house our most dangerous inmates. And as administrators at both Blackgate and Arkham Asylum, I'm sure the reason for that pride won't be lost on you." So he's talking about how they keep the more like super powered villains, kind of like it's sort of like a version of where's Task Force X, Belle Reve, kind of like Belle Reve Penitentiary. But unlike Amanda Waller, what Warden Wolf here does is he goes, "Here's the weather wizard. He's not very happy. That's because we've interrupted his superhuman ability to manipulate everything from rain to lightning, using a low-level electrostatic field applied to his body." So kind of keep that in mind, because that's sort of the what's the word I'm looking for? The whole point of this issue. And then we flip over to our characters, and right here I have some beef with the artwork. So we see Dr. Ryan Choi trying to do something, doing like this interconnecting networking here at Ivy University, where I believe Ray Palmer used to work, and he's taking up the mantle there. And I love how he seems like, how Ray Palmer kind of has like a sense of humor about him. Troy's just learning it. So he's saying, "This is Dr. Ryan Choi. After several budget-based setbacks, I'm ready to begin recording atmospheric data around Ivy Town. 3 or 2, 1, we have bupkis," which is an excellent English word I just learned. And then we see him transform into the Atom, which is cool. And he finds out what's happened. So this page in and of itself is not bad. This kind of has that old school action look. But then we get to the home of Barry Allen and Iris Allen. And I don't know what happened. Like, was the artist drawing this and then took a little sniffy sniff break and was like, "I'm just going to scribble the shit out of this one." Because look at Wally Jr. and Iris. Oh my God. They look like really bad sim rejects. And then Barry he has like this huge jaw going on, and then look at the Ray's head. They just this reminds me of that meme you see on social media. I can't remember. It's like the gray head, and like the one that I make it synonymous with is the meme says I switch HDMI one to HDMI two and it starts working. Electrician. And it kind of has like this derpy look on his face, and that's just what I see here. And I'm ripping on this because if we go back to 1992, when people really had to focus on anatomy and how characters looked without the use of digital models or 3D models for that matter, everything feels relatively consistent. Wally here has that chiseled jawline that what do you call it, men have, and then of course the females have the more slender look, even if they're more athletic, like Power Girl, or more femme fatale, like I can't remember her name, but you get what I'm getting at here. So we go from that to electrician. It's just so bad. It's so bad. And that's probably the one thing that was very off-putting about this whole book is the art, the tonality of the art just feels so off because we go from like Sims, God, say that 3 times fast, Sims simulator to not looking too bad with Flash flying in because Ray, like, and this is another thing too, like tonality. So Ray's talking about how this exploded, and then all of a sudden he's jumping through fiber optics to talk to Barry. So if you can kind of disassociate from this page and just jump in, like pretend this didn't happen and get into the story, you're all right. Because the Ray's basically saying, I had detected an unusual electromagnetic SOS signal composed of radio bursts that equated Morse code. When I was able to trace it back to its origin, I knew I had to come to you. Blah, blah, blah. However it was generated, it came from Iron Heights, where the greatest enemies of the Flash are incarcerated. And then we get, electrician to a relatively good looking face here, the Rogues. And so this is what I mean is I feel like it's traced because we get moments where characters look normal and then, oh my God, what is this? Okay, that looks good. And that should not be the focus. And the same thing with Wally here. So decent enough shot of Barry. And then we get another sim simulation of Wally. And it's like, what is this? Now, this is a pretty good team up. This is, I really started to like Kid Flash when Robin was Damian Robin was the Team Titans leader. He just had that whole run during, I think it's probably around 2021, 2022, had a lot of great character development, especially when Slade comes into the picture and everyone has to team up against him. And everyone kind of knows how Damian's sort of walking the line. Wally really stepped up, just like the original Wally West always did in the original Teen Titans. So I really got a lot of respect for this new character. It just throws me off that they both he's both called Wally West and he's now Kid Flash. So it's kind of hard to differentiate that. Anyway, now we're in Black Rock. Now remember how the Warden said he was using electromagnetic fields to disrupt the Rogue's powers. And then Ray talking about, not Ray, the Atom talking about those SOS pulses that he was seeing in those optic lines. So now we see, heat wave coming in, everybody's going click, 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 or probably more like, and it's sort of like a Night of the Living Dead thing. And then again, another with like, okay, we get a pretty cool, a relatively decent look of heat wave here, but then look at the guards. It's like, it just looks bad. And then this guy just looks like Egon with really bad hair going on. It's just the inconsistency of the art that really throws me off. But anyway, without going into too much, the Flash and the Atom find out that there's a way that these signals, these clicks are, it's like a wave carry through the electromagnetic sphere that is controlling the Rogues, making them do whoever this unnamed assailant is. And so Flash is able to go at that same speed and interrupt it, saving Heatwave. Oh, someone was in my head making me do things. They're doing it to my partners now. This is personal. Rory, you're staying here. If I have to ask these guards to sit on you, I can't trust you as far as I can extinguish you. Now, another thing, let me ask, is this Flash's new outfit? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't like it. he looks more like a well, for example, right here. This is the to me this will always be the Flash's suit. You know, even Wally adapted it. And I think Bart has worn it at one time as well. But that's the Flash. This I don't know if this is just for this particular special, but to me he looks like a speed like something those speed ice skaters wear. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I'm just gonna be straight up with you, man. So essentially, Flash has to team up with Heatwave, the Atom, and Kid Flash separate to try to save everyone at this Iron Heights. And we get a moment with the Tricksters. The Trickster doesn't look too bad here. The artwork's all right. But what I kind of like, and this is another thing, is Barry to me has always been more like the. I guess you can relate it to siblings, where the oldest one tends to always be the more kind of serious one, and then the middle child is a little more zany, and then the younger one's kind of crazy to a degree. So think of Wally. Think of Barry as like the oldest one, who's more serious, but can kind of quip here and there. But with Barry, you know, he's always tried to give the rogues the benefit of the doubt, and that's why everyone respects him. Wally followed that up too, but Wally's a little more jokey, and we saw that in the old Justice League cartoon, and it kind of shows in the comics. And then if we want to go crazy, we could talk about like Bart, because Impulse, he was just Bart's always been something else to me. But whenever they try to make Barry a jokester, it just is so off-putting. Anyway, back to the book. Trickster looks good. And what made me laugh about this scene, and what I mean by Barry being able to kind of like low-key quip, is you gotta go up these stairs, and Heatwave's just like, so many stairs. Flash, I ran the entire perimeter twice. God, I hate when you do that. I didn't see anyone on either floor. It's like they've all disappeared. That's the problem with you running, guys, Flash. You only look directly ahead. You see everyone coming down. I wish this was more at a Dutch angle, because this to me just looks a little too much flat. But at least the Trickster and the characters here look good. And they don't look like, you know what I'm saying? So everyone has to go through and start saving everyone. Adam finds that there's this main generator that's amplifying this click. And then I just kind of like this foreground foreshadowing of who the villain is. And if we think about mind control and big monsters with red eyes, it's pretty much a given. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go pick up the figure and read this comic, because it's not a bad story. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a huge Tim Seeley fan. I never have been. But reading this, I can kind of see that at least he's maturing a little bit. A lot of his other stuff just felt too jokey, kind of like Tumblr webcomic jokey. But this kind of, the characters for the most part at least feel the way they're supposed to. I don't know a lot about Ryan Choi, but at least from what I'm seeing, it feels like a character and not just like a one-dimensional joke shtick. So with that said, spoilers aside, we realize that it's Gorilla Grodd. And of course, and then the art, again, kind of like this is a great version, like this is a great image of Grodd, but this look on Wally's face, again, it's like a meme. Like you could put that in a meme box and just be like, that feeling when you shit your pants or something, you know what I'm saying? But again, let's go back. Not a bad image of Grodd. Bad facial expression of Wally. Now let me talk about tonal consistency with art again. Let me pull up this issue of Flash. And I think this is the wrong book, but I will try my best. But look at this. Look at Hector Hammond and Wally here. The art stays consistent. Look at the way they drew all the Grodds here in Gorilla City. Just light on the line work, heavy on the inks, and a color palette. But it adds, because this is like a memory, and then we go back to more vibrant colors of the present. And see how we go from page to page and everyone still looks relatively the same? Here, it feels like we get moments of great art like Grodd, and then again, this. I just feel like they should have really went back and the editor should have been like, are we sure this is really the route we want to go? Because these moments, these up close with Grodds, that looks great. All the reds of the use. This just looks, I feel like this should have been more like a Dutch angle or something, just a little more dramatic instead of just a full-on flat cover. So overall, I don't want to give away the story. It is a self-contained story. And that, again, is something that we've talked about that we feel we don't see a lot of anymore. Everything feels like, oh, you got to read this issue and then read 17 more tie-ins to read the 17 issue event book that's going to have another 2 tie-ups to like 17 other books. This was self-contained, and I think they had to do that primarily because this was for the Atom action figure. And if that's how we're going to get self-contained one stories again, or one shots as they call them, say la vie. I'm about that, because sometimes just continuing and continuing, it's like, God, we're just dragging this on and beating a dead horse. So the story, I feel like Tim Seeley has really kind of come to leaps and bounds in terms of character development. The team up of Kid Flash, Barry, and the new Atom was relatively entertaining. But I think what really took me out of it was the inconsistency in the artwork. Because this cover is great, but I just feel like they should have given the art team more time to go back and be like, oh, wow, the Atom's head is smaller compared to Wally's giant ass, you know, what do you call it, square chin head and stuff like that, just to kind of fine tune it. And I feel like if they would have done that and maybe eased off and made some more dynamic panels and eased off the heavy inks in certain spots, this would have been a great comic overall and something entertaining to go with an action figure. And again, as I always say, a way to get new readers. So at least the story is entertaining, and you get it with an action figure. That's just, to me, as an added bonus. What do you guys think? Do you have that action figure? Do you have this comic? What do you thought of it? We will eventually be doing a dual review of both the Silver Age Ray Palmer Atom and the Page Puncher Ryan Choi Atom together, so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop wherever there's to get your action figures and comics, and grab this figure so you can check out this book. If you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate it. Take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little flash bell next, subscribe. That way, as I continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you, hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure they have the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.